Hello, everyone. Thank you for coming today. My name is Jana Weiss. I am the Student Life Coordinator for Global Online. Today, we are presenting recipes for success, and we are going to talk about AI in the classroom, something that can be very frustrating as we're studying and writing papers and doing research. And we have a wonderful librarian here with us from HCC, and her name is Alexandra Almastica, and she is our kind of our resident librarian expert on AI, as expert as you can be with AI these days. Please welcome Alex and ask her lots of questions.
All right. Welcome, everybody. Thank you so much for coming in today for a quick introduction to AI 10, let's call it AI 101. If you're interested in other approaches to AI throughout the semester, the online college has another series going on too, and we're going to have additional events for that you can attend. I am Alex. I am a full-time librarian with ACC, and I've been working with the college for around 9 years now, and with the topic of AI since 2023. I'm also a doctoral student at the University of Houston, and this is one of the topics that I am exploring as part of the dissertation. So this has been it's been a very interesting and fast journey. Okay, so feel free to ask questions at any time. Jana will go in the chat. Okay, okie dokie. So I'll try my best to keep up with us with the questions, and I have a presentation that I want to share today. Thank you so much. All right. So, welcome to Recipes for Success Navigating the AI Landscape in the Classroom. My name is Alex, and we're gonna share a little bit of information today that I hope helps and frames, the way you're thinking about AI and what you want to do with AI in your classroom as a student. And if you're a faculty member, please do consider, some of these ideas and see how can you integrate them and into your practices too. So one thing that I always emphasize when I talk about AI is kind of like what are the ACC guidelines and what are some practical tools that we can actually use for creating artifacts. So it's really important for us to understand, how is the college approaching this, and also the authority and responsibility that our professors have, right? Because they are the ones that are going to tell us exactly how we can use AI in the classroom. So that is very important for all of you to remember. So one thing that I usually emphasize is understanding artificial intelligence and then thinking about generative AI, right? And what is our responsibility in regards to using these tools that are just appearing, growing, expanding, sometimes without us knowing what exactly is happening in the market, right? So it's really interesting to see that sometimes we are in the classroom, right, as students or faculty members, and then what happens is all of a sudden we have a new product that we never heard of. Nobody told us that we were going to be exposed to it. Nobody asked us if we wanted to use it, right? But all of a sudden it appears. As in my practice as a librarian, I walk around the library and students are using AI in a lot of different ways. So we need to be aware of what is it that we're talking about. So I always go with a basic definition of AI for everybody to understand that when we're talking about artificial intelligence, it is a pretty big field, okay? And it's related to, the computational capabilities of technology, combining that with data sets that can enable you to, fix a problem. So then when we're talking with AI, give me just one second. Okay, Loki. When we are working with AI, uh, we are using just AI as a word, but the field is greater than that, right? And do remember that ACC has a bachelor's of artificial intelligence. That's something that if you're interested in the field, you should definitely check out. So, in the context of Houston Community College, in our policies, we talk about artificial intelligence as a technology that can automate or execute certain tasks, right? And those tasks are designed by us humans, and it can make processes more efficient, and it can handle a lot of different things that could be pretty complex. But sometimes when we also talk specifically about the use of generative AI, what we are talking is about things that can create original text, images, video, audio, or codes using prompts that a user gives, right? So when we're talking a lot about generative AI, and let's take in consideration us, right? This group, we're talking about you as being somebody that's writing a prompt to create something different. And what you could create with AI at this point is usually in the realm of the digital, right? You can create text, you can create images, you can create music. If we had time, we're gonna create a song together today. Um, so there's a lot of different things that you can create, right? And one of the issues that people have with AI is that that creation, that aspect of how is this all being created, is coming from a data set that the AI companies have, that was pretty much scraped off of the internet without asking people for permission. So that is a pretty big issue right now. So keep in mind, you have artificial intelligence as a big computational field, and then also you could consider generative AI and how that's being used by different people to generate content. So how is AI impacting our lives? Well, if we narrow it down to 2 to 3 points, um, a lot of people document the economic growth in the sector. And if you follow, not only do I follow like conversations about the use of generative AI in academia, but I also follow market conversations, because a lot of these developments are driven by the market, right? So whatever a company decides to use, all of a sudden you have artificial intelligence in your phone when you didn't decide that you wanted that. So that you're going to see a lot of conversations about that as AI is integrated into different platforms. Um, at this point, a lot of people comment that AI and generative AI have dramatically altered, what people can create in term, and especially for knowledge workers. And if you think about it, pretty much all of us are knowledge workers in a certain way, right? As creators, and we handle a lot of information and knowledge in our jobs and careers. So that is something that I want you to keep in mind. And um, there is an area of AI that has had to do at this point with how is it that integrated generative AI alters the way that you may think about things. Okay. And some people talk about developing like, brain rot, or people being lazy and not thinking. And those are ideas that you need to consider. Like, I've served students that refuse to touch AI because they don't want to feel that they're being contaminated by the technology. I have other students that are a fan of artificial intelligence and generative AI because of how much more they can do. Okay. So there is a wide spectrum of adaptation and use of the technology, and everybody needs to consider, what is it that this technology means for me, right? What could it be doing to my field? Like, how is AI being integrated, let's say, into design? How can it be integrated into the health profession? And trust me, across the board and all disciplines, AI is being integrated in a lot of different roles, anything from research to performance improvement or adaptation of, large language models for other functions. So there's an explosion in the market. Yesterday I was reading an article, I was listening to a podcast in which they were discussing market investments. And surprisingly, one of the companies that is getting a lot of revenue due to their integration of AI is Meta. And that is the company that is over Instagram and Facebook. And the growth there is pretty big. And then if you are following certain conversations, be aware that Apple is in conversation with Google to integrate certain aspects of Gemini, but nobody knows the details, not even the investors. So everything is developing pretty fast, and every eventually it trickles down to the consumer, and then to us in our role as educators and students. That is something that can affect you. So um I concentrate a little bit on ChatGPT here because I want everybody to be aware of where this came from, right? So with ChatGPT, if you see a lot of people using it, it's just taking data from certain data sets that it has, and it's not, let's say, current as of today. The data sets are bound, right, by certain versions. So you are not necessarily looking
Mhm.
at all the information or the text that it can scrape from the internet to then give you some results. That's one thing. And then it's a predictive model, right? So generative AI through ChatGPT, one thing that I like to highlight is like it doesn't know. And that's something that I want you to remember. This is a program that is predicting words based on, mathematical computations. And it's going to sound to you like there might be a person on the other side, right? But there is not. It's a machine. And what you feed into the machine is something that's going to get back to you. So I always encourage people that if you're using generative AI, remember the use of ethics, right? And how is it that you are feeding content? Remember issues that are related to privacy, keeping
Mhm.
your private data, using real doctors for medical uh, diagnostics, assessing if you would like to speak to a counselor or a real therapist. Be very mindful about how you use this technology because it's at this time a little bit still unpredictable, right? And of course, we have all heard about different horror stories that are appearing in the media in regards to the use of technologies like this one. So one thing that I always alert people is that technologies that ChatGPT may hallucinate. It may create things and give you results that are not true. Okay, so as a librarian, of course, I'm a fan of sources that we have in the library or sources that we can always verify because they have been evaluated by other experts in the field. Right. So as you develop your own knowledge base and you start using resources in your courses to develop your content or to prepare, papers that you need to deliver, different types of projects, always consider that you want information that is reliable and that you can know exactly where it came from. One thing that I always emphasize with these technologies is that you don't know exactly where the information comes from. And even when you may ask for a source, you have to be careful about
Mhm.
verifying that that source is actually real. And this goes across different platforms. If I can recommend one platform for information retrieval that is powered by AI, I'm going to bring this into the screen real quick. It's called Semantic Scholar. Okay, this is a free AI powered tool for scientific literature. It's very powerful, and this is where I always tell everybody: please do not pay for information online. Okay, you have a library. And you have librarians that are passionate about connecting you with resources. Okay. So if you wanted to use artificial intelligence to explore the world of information, this source is highly recommended. This is the product of a foundation that is working um on the platform, right? So this is not just a product related to um, Gemini, ChatGPT, or Apple. This is a completely new project that is very popular at the moment in the academia. So I highly recommend you check that as you can in the future. And the name is Semantic Scholar. Um, so as we continue, I want to address the issue of generative AI in college. So in the context of ACC, it's really important for you to know that the unauthorized use of artificial intelligence tools like ChatGPT or other applications that generate content is considered cheating. Okay, that's from our policies and from the Student Code of Conduct. Okay, now, if you use AI in an unauthorized way, your professor can say, "Well, you committed plagiarism." Okay, so it is critical for us and very important that you communicate with your professors to understand what is the extent of the use of AI in your classroom. And I want to make a point here. And I want to invite you to please talk to your professors, ask questions. They're there to facilitate a learning process for you. So you shouldn't feel shy or apprehensive or fearful of saying, "Hey, professor, what do you think about the use of generative AI here? To what extent?" Yeah, it disappeared. That's because I switched to my view. To what extent can I use it? That is very important, okay? Because sometimes in my experience working with students, they, try to do things behind the scenes without really chatting with their professors, looking for clarification. And at this point, that is very important. Communicating with each other as humans and your professors as experts that are guiding you in the field is something that's going to help you. Okay. So please remember that. Talk to your faculty. They're here to help. They care immensely about you and your learning process. So make sure that you engage them in a way that is advantageous to your success in your course. Okay. So having said this, AI can be considered cheating and plagiarism if you don't consult with your faculty. When we are talking about the content and the concept of academic integrity, it's very important for you to understand that when we are working towards, with you towards completing a degree, and we give you that graduation moment, right? What we're saying is that the credentials that you have from ACC are ones of quality, okay? And that you conducted your academic activities with honor and integrity. So, in a way, we hold you accountable, right, for the quality of your work, and we want you to do the best, right? So do remember that the institution and your professors will hold you accountable. If you start generating whole papers and creating content and passing it as if it was yours, that's not acceptable. Okay. So with that said, my invitation is always for you to check with your faculty in regards to the integration of AI. And you're gonna have some professors that are going to say, do not use any type of artificial intelligence tools in this class, and you're going to have other professors that are going to give you really guidelines or even full projects that are related to artificial intelligence. As I've seen both in my practices here. um, so one thing that three things that I want you to consider about uh, the when you're using these data sets and these services is that the content comes from sources that you don't necessarily might recognize, right? So there's always a certain type of level of concern in regards to like how accurate is the information that I am getting from AI. And it's very interesting. I have students debating me whether, the definition of words from a dictionary was better than the definition that AI was giving them. Okay. So at that point, there's been a shift in the way that people are considering information. And sometimes people just tend to think, oh, I can get it from the phone, I can get it through Google. It's okay. I don't need a source. And you have to be very careful because that goes back to your credentials, right? And where do you get the information and how you validate the knowledge that you know. And that is really important. So somebody could go after you because you use the wrong sources, or you did not provide evidence for something that came out of a source that is actually verifiable. So remember that to follow the guidelines and instructions of your professors in your process of creativity in school. Now, when you are creating, there's something that I highlight about using these technologies that is really interesting. Usually, if you are creating things with AI, one thing that people don't realize is that there is the chance that you might lose like your voice, your tone, and your syntax, right? You have a specific way in which you compose things, even visually or in text. And your grammar too might show some mistakes here and there, right? But overall, your style is very unique to you. That is something that AI usually cannot replicate. Although if you tell certain tools, if you feed a tool a certain part of your work, the tool would catch your tone, okay? And eventually it could write even in a way that mimics what you could create, but still not you. So one thing that is really important for you to understand as you are working with these technologies is that the creation of work is a process that demonstrates your progress, your learning, your acquisition of information, and how you transform that into knowledge that you can apply, or even wisdom in some cases. Okay, so your style is very unique, the way you write, and not only that, your story is unique for you. So when you are coming to use these technologies, you're bringing yourself into the process, and you have some knowledge funds, like some things that you acquire in your life that are unique to you and that the AI cannot replicate. So we want to see in academia how you bring yourself into a process of creativity. And when you're using these technologies, how is it that you're using them to enhance your learning process, not to use them as a substitute? Okay. So what should you do to use AI properly? My first recommendation is always ask your professors. You can always consult with librarians, right? You can also check them with your tutors. And there's two things that are very important. If you are allowed to use AI in your creative process, make sure that you're citing AI. You need to tell us what's your prompt, and what also is the source of that you use. And I have examples about this later in the presentation. And the other thing that you need to do is you need to verify everything. Um, and in that case, there's something that I want you to also realize, because sometimes people are going into generative AI to retrieve information. They don't assess if the information that they're retrieving is the best or the latest, or if it's coming from a place that actually can deliver appropriate content. So I am at a point where I recommend, using multiple sources from the library. And if you want to integrate sources from AI, you have to make sure that they're actually uh, um sources that can be verifiable. And even then, I'm cautious in that. Okay, so be very careful when you're integrating artificial intelligence and trying to get sources from there, because sometimes they're not just giving you the best. Now, when you before you if you haven't already engaged with artificial intelligence or generative AI in different platforms, that's great. There's some tips that I want you to watch out for. Number one is to protect your identity, right? And I always recommend that you create a separate email account to use with these types of applications, because nowadays our phones are a gateway in many occasions to our lives. And if you start tying up everything to your main email account, not only is your inbox going to get flooded, but you don't know sometimes how stable some of the services online are, or how they protect your data. So keep your use of, I would say, of AI applications separate from what you might do with your phone. Because it's very important for you to protect that. So in that same line, you need to be aware of integrations of AI that you didn't necessarily ask for. Okay. So one thing that we have seen at the library hours, ACCS, is that if you, for example, are looking for the ACC library hours, right now I'm using Google, and I just made a query like this, library hours, and I am in all. So I'm not seeing my results in the AI mode. But when you have the AI on, sometimes the information that you might get might not be correct. And because we usually scroll through or if you're looking for a topic, we tend to, this area of the screen tend to catch our attention. You have to be very careful about the information that sometimes you're seeing on the results on the screen, because you're not seeing sites. You're seeing what the AI from whichever browser you are using is giving you. So you have to be aware of where is that integration happening in terms of, what content is actually presented by somebody that intended to present the content that I'm seeing versus what is being generated from scraps that are being placed together from the internet. And one thing that is really important is that as you are using generative AI, especially for creative projects, is that you should maintain your own records. You should have your own files, right? Don't trust that you can create, work online and that the work is going to be there forever, because these platforms sometimes they shut down for, various reasons. So make sure that you have your content with you, okay? And that you're keeping things for yourself. So now in this part, I'm going to stop here for 1 second. If we have any questions. Oh, okay. Carlos is mentioning something very interesting. Thank you, Carlos, for saying he mentioned, will this also include using the Google Voice number that is different from your own phone? It might. If you guys haven't explored this, way back in the day, Google started a service called Google Voice. So there is a way of getting a second phone number that is not tied in to your phone number. And it's a completely separate environment from, for example, if you have an Android phone, you can have a Google Voice number. So to Carlos' comment, I would say yes, I do. I have a Google Voice number. So I have my own. I have an Android phone, so I have my own Android line, and then I have a separate phone number that I use for, let's say, I would say texting, but very, very little. Sometimes for confirmations, I do have some of my bills tied in, so you can decide how you have that. Um, and Camila is mentioning that she heard that you can't completely turn off the AI mechanism on Google. Oh, is that true? Like even when you look at something in the search bar, it still gives you AI generated information. I haven't looked too much into it. No, Camila, it's not about turning it off, but it's more about knowing where you are. So if you notice, I'm gonna go back here. Okay. I'm gonna look for KHOU. So right now I'm in Google, but I'm not getting results from that are AI generated. And you have the AI mode, and but there is a different mode in Google that is not coming up for me today, where you get results right here at the top. So, and sometimes when you get those results right at the top, there's going to be a little symbol indicating that the content has been generated. So that's one way that you can keep track of, what's being generated versus if you're getting absolute results from a website. Okay. Let me see. Fatia mentions that she uses DuckDuckGo on Firefox. That's another alternative. You can use, there's some browsers that are now like shutting down the complete use. So that's something that you want to evaluate. It's very important to do that. Okay. Any other questions at this point before I show you some things around?
Not seeing any. Not
No?
seeing any.
Okay. Thank you.
You're muted. I don't know if that was intentional.
Uh, so last year I worked on a project where we evaluated a lot of different tools for a lot of different artifact creations. And one of the best things that you can do is explore. A lot of these services or AI tools that you find online are going to provide you a freemium version. Okay. So try, things first for free, explore, try not to be too stressed about everything that you're seeing until you decide whether this is something that you want to try or not. Okay. I have a lot of people that I know that are fans of Gemini, provided via Google, and they have a free pro plan for students for 1 year now. So if that is something that you want to explore, I highly recommend that you go to Gemini and open a free account with them, and then see what you can do um, in the platform. The pro of this is like there's an integration with Google that can aid you, right? But you have to be very aware of what you're trying to do. And something that I don't cover in this presentation is generation of um images. But that's something that you need to keep in mind. All of these platforms are usually gonna allow you to generate a lot of different products. And of course there's ChatGPT, which is one of the most used one. And ChatGPT has a student mode that we'll see if we can try. There's also Claude, Perplexity, and if you notice, the layout of some of these platforms is similar, right? So everything is giving you a similar experience uh, to what ChatGPT started working in the past. Now, in the presentation that I'm sharing with you today, I made it in Gamma. Okay. Originally, this presentation was made in PowerPoint. And it was just a traditional PowerPoint that I created a while back, right? And then I decided to switch from PowerPoint to Gamma as a way of doing that. So if I had a little bit of time, I'll show you how that looks. So there are applications for a lot of different things. And one of the best things that you can do with AI when you generate your own content is, like, as you're writing and creating your original work, then you use that as the baseline for creating different products. Okay. So what can you, if you have all these tools, what are some of the things that you need to consider? Well, the first thing is, what are your needs? What do you need to do with this? Okay. um and the range of questions that I fielded in the past about what can you use this for is pretty extraordinary. Usually it goes from, can I generate code? Can I make a website? Can I create a song? Can I create an image? And then even beyond that, for educators, there are platforms for creating lesson plans, aligning with district goals. And some of the ones that I've tried are free. So there are a lot of different tools that are integrating AI. And I will say that once you identify your needs, you need to explore, but also, as I mentioned, try things for free. um Comparing results across platforms is critical, because you're gonna see different deliveries of materials, and the tone of, or what the capabilities of a system. So you have to test a lot and play with AI and generative AI to see if there's something that is in alignment with what you're seeking. And one thing that I want to highlight has to do with ethical behavior. It is really important to respect copyright, right? Um, and not try to kind of like emulate use or take images that are not royalty free to reuse them. There are ways in which you can create that type of content without, infringing copyright. And one thing that's also critical, as I said at the beginning, is for you to cite sources. So one thing that a lot of people don't talk about when using generative AI is your ability to discern, your ability to judge. That is, some people are saying, your ability to think critically about something. But sometimes the use of the word critical, people go too much into, well, I'm criticizing the system, where it's more about understanding what it's doing and then passing a judgment on the content, if this is even something that you may want to use or not. Capacity of assessing and learning about this should be in alignment with your goals. And also, depending on what you want to do, um, what is it that you expect in the future to do with generative AI? Is this something that might become critical in your field, or is it something that you don't need to, maybe touch too much, but at least awareness of the tools and things that are out there are important for everybody at this point. So please do practice discernment. Now, in school, we're always being asked for citations. So, and I mentioned that I was going to share this towards the end. If you are working in MLA style, in this part right here, you see works cited list entry. That is how a citation should look in MLA for your works cited entry list. So pretty much you start with the prompt that you wrote, and then you specify that it is actually a prompt. Then you place the model that you use, the date, the version, and the company with the date, and then the URL. Okay. This is from the MLA style website. And then if you are working with APA, it looks a little bit different. Okay. Notice that in APA, you give the title of the chat that goes at the top, but you don't necessarily place the prompt. Okay. And depending on your how your professor wants you to cite things in APA or MLA, always defer to your professor's guideline, right? In terms of using AI. So this is the end of kind of like the presentation here. Feel free to contact me and let me know how I can assist you in the process of using AI. And I'll be happy to do that. But this is not the total end, because I have some things that I want to share with you. First, in the chat box, I'm going to drop, let me see here. Okay. In the chat, I'm dropping a link to this presentation, and you can take that with you. Feel free to use it, remix it, in any way that you might feel that is appropriate. Okay. And then give me just one moment here. So I told you today we're gonna go see some of the tools that you can use, and I'm purposely on a different account. So this is a brand new account that I created in ChatGPT, okay, and it has, you can see the interface, and one thing that I want to highlight here is when you press the ask and go for more, you can get to the study and learn section of ChatGPT. So that is very, very useful if you want to explore. So there are a lot of things that you can do here. And one thing that sometimes people don't explore is on the left side in this area right here under projects and the codes and the different apps. I highly recommend that you check that out at some point. So just be prepared to explore, okay, and see what you can do. Now, I left this one here for you to see. This is a free account with Gemini, and of course, they're trying to get people to sign up, right? So they want people to pay a little bit more. You can use this for free and then assess if that is something that you want to subscribe to. You don't have to subscribe to use some of these services, okay? So try to save your money and try to get as much as you can out of the services for free. And as always, when you see a plus sign, please press that and notice how they are giving messages now related to the creation of content like images, right? And they are telling people, make sure that you have the rights and make sure that you explore those policies at some point. Just don't go in there and use it without having the rights. In this session, I'm not covering Notebook LM. But for those of you that are interested in using software in the form of generative AI that can extract and manipulate documents, Notebook LM is a very powerful product. Okay. What Notebook LM will do is, let me see if I can add 3 sources here. This is an integration of Notebook LM into Gemini. And what Notebook LM is doing is an analysis of 3 sources that are related to universal basic income. And the difference between doing a prompt from to Gemini and using this extension is that right now the analysis that is being generated is based on specific sources that are coming from one is a paper that I wrote and the other one is an article. So these are my own sources inside Gemini. But if you wanted to see Notebook LM, it's available for subscribers. So that it's a powerful platform. A lot of people in academia are using it. Another platform that you can consider is Claude. I know some professors in math were telling me yesterday that they really like some applications that they use here. I'm not going to upgrade or use this later. I just want you to see exactly that it looks similar to all the other platforms. And one thing that I want you to consider is how you visually learn when you're using these systems, because you have to learn to recognize that whenever you see a plus sign, something new can happen, or maybe this little chat can lead you to a conversation, right? So you can search your chats. So there are a lot of different features. In this case, I'm now in Perplexity, another platform. And if you keep going, everything's going to look the same. Now, a question that I get sometimes has to do with Grammarly. Okay. Grammarly is a platform that is very popular when it comes to writing. And I have another account. I created this one for free to show it today. And I'm going to say that I use it in other projects, let's say for email. And I'm going to go with the free version. No, I don't want to try Pro for nothing. I don't want to pay. I want the free version. Okay. No thanks. Not subscribing to anything today. Now, earlier there was a question about integration of AI in some things. This is something that I'm going to highlight. Sometimes these integrations, for example, there is an integration that is in Windows only, and this one that is in Windows and Chrome. So, play around with that. But I usually don't integrate this into any platform. And I try like not to use the executable files and simply go from using the service as it is. Because I use Grammarly in the app, not integrated into Microsoft Word. Okay. Because I just don't like the integration into Word and how it kind of like does the recommendations over there. So if this is something that you want to try at some point, it is very powerful in terms of the recommendations that it can give you. And be mindful if you see an AI integration, because there is a difference between you correcting your grammar using Grammarly and then having Grammarly generate text for you that you have no idea what you're writing about. Okay. So that is also very important for you to know. I mentioned at the beginning that we were going to try to write a song. Let me stop here for a second. And I want to see in the chat. Oh, Carlos is mentioning that it's distracting when it's integrated. And Sonia shares that she prefers using the app as well instead of integrating in Microsoft Soft. I'm glad that you guys wait. Yeah, Camila, we're gonna make a song. Do you want to give me a lyric for a song? What are we writing a song about? I'm gonna wait for Camila to give us that song lyric. But yes, not a problem, Jana. Thank you. So one of the things is that you need to be aware is where how is it that you can kind of like keep your content apart so you have control. That is very important, that you have control over what you're doing and what you're creating. Write a song about anxiety, Camila. Oh my goodness. We're gonna write a song about anxiety and letting our anxiety go away. Existential anxiety. Oh my guys, it's February. What is going on? We need to oh my goodness. Breathe. Breathe. Okay. Look, and now that we are in this, let's take a moment here, 1 second, to address. Look, HCC has a lot of resources. If you at some point are like a little bit too stressed, right? And you need to talk to somebody, please check with your advisor, check in with our counselors. They are fantastic. Okay. Um, so seek help, okay? Seek assistance, somebody to, to talk with. I'm glad that you're mentioning this in the chat. And I want to be respectful in addressing it. Don't feel that you're alone, that you don't have somebody to talk to. Reach out to HCC and, come to the library, check our books. If you need a quiet, calm environment, the libraries have some really nice spots for you to kind of like make a puzzle, go check out our magazines, go in a corner and breathe, okay? So I am going to honor Camila's request for an anxiety uh, song. And also I acknowledge Carlos' existential request. Let's see how this is gonna come out, okay? Ooh, I'm gonna need help here and your support. So I'm sharing my screen. Now I'm in an application called Suno, and there's some lyrics here that I'm gonna write. And let me see. Okay, making something up. Here we go. Okay. All right. So I wrote a few lines there, something that I just came out with really quick. Uh, you can select a lot of different styles. I'm gonna select steel drum. Hopefully, it comes out something like a little bit calming. And I'm gonna leave it at that, and then I'm gonna hit create. Notice that I have 50 credits. It give you 50 credits for free. So now it's generating some songs, and I need to stop sharing here for 1 second and then go back to reshare with the sound on. Give me a moment. Well, I try. Carlos and Camila, you gave me like a really, you gave me a project here. It's a little bit hard, but I appreciate it. Okay, let me see. Okay, let's see what happens. And I'm gonna play. I need somebody to tell me if you can hear it.
Anxiety goes away with gentle thoughts for a brighter future. We can support each other in hard times, knowing that together we will be okay. We are not alone in this journey, and love will conquer all.
Let's see the other one. That's very interesting. Hold on, let me let me close it down 1 second. Whew, okay, now it went into a little bit more of a melancholy tone. Miss Sonia is asking, can you select what genre you prefer? Yes, it has more genres. I selected steel drum pans, but somehow it gave me Texas. So remember when I was talking about testing things and sometimes how they don't work? You have an example right there. I didn't think we were going to get a melancholy song like that, right? But you did see how it adapted what I wrote. So I really appreciate your examples, right? In terms of the topics, the the topics that you suggested. Couldn't have done it without you, okay? Um Carlos is mentioning that it must know that we're here, right? So that's a good point. We joke around it, but we don't know if the system is registered that we are coming from Texas, right? Recognizing IP addresses and marking that as something. So, that is an app I made like that for free. It's really short. But if you imagine what you can do, you have like 1 minute for you to create a song, and it's something, if you wanted to make a song for a family member or celebrating somebody, or maybe a song to inspire you, right, in challenging times like today when we're dealing with anxiety and all those things. So I want to thank you for attending today. And I want to remind you that in this process of, facing artificial intelligence, number one, talk to your professors, right? Make sure you're having conversations with them about this. That's very important for you to communicate with them. And number two, I want you to know that ACC libraries are available for you. We have wonderful librarians. Miss Sonia is here on the call, and she offers a webinar about academic integrity that's phenomenal. So I want to invite you to, check out the webinars that the library has too, and to seek out our assistance as we, work with you. We are online, we are on site, right? And in the process of exploring artificial intelligence and generative AI, playing and trying to relax and being stress free is very important. Okay. um do I have any additional questions or comments for the chat? Appreciate you. You guys have a good day. Thank you so much.